What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. We're jumping straight into the Miata project because I want to drive this thing and I think it's pretty close to running. I mean, you saw in the last video where we first got this thing and it did start on starter fluid, but there was an issue with the fuel pump. As I had mentioned, it was not getting any power and we fixed that today. My buddy Cameron came out and he took a look at this thing and the wiring under the dash was an absolute mess. I did some Googling and it was like, that's where your fuel pump relay is. Fuel pump relay is a common failure on these things. So I looked under there and it was a disaster. I think this car had an aftermarket alarm at some point and there was wires like spliced into and it was a huge mess. And I just kind of took a step back and I was like, I'll get to this another day. Thankfully, Cameron looked under there with some fresh eyes and he was like, hey, you don't need any of this. A lot of this is junk. A lot of it's just teed in. So he unplugged just about everything. We cut and cleaned up a few wires that could be kind of put back to the factory way. And we got power to the fuel pump now. So that's a win. For reference, this is what was under the dash. So we've got a relay, random connectors, a bunch of stuff teed in, a ground, like total junk. That's out. Everything works except the fuel pump. So now that we have power to it, we can actually diagnose that the fuel pump is an issue and we're gonna fix that right now. All right, fuel pump on the Miata. So you'll have to pull back the carpet on your parcel deck. You'll remove the access panel, just a couple of Phillips head bolts, and the fuel pump lives under this hat. You can see I already unplugged this. Get that guy out of the way. Now we need to remove these fuel lines, and these are with quick disconnects, and you need a special tool for these. I gotta be honest, I tried without it and it just wasn't working, and I really don't want to break them, so let me show you the tool. Start by pushing them towards the line. That's just gonna kind of break them free. I already did that. So they've got a little bit of wiggle to them now. You can see, so they're not like seized on. That just kind of helps the clips work a little bit better. Now we're gonna grab that tool and they should pop right off. Here you go, fuel line disconnect tool. I picked this up at AutoZone. I'm gonna link one down on Amazon. Honestly, they're all the same. Let me show you how it works. All right, so taking a look at this tool, it's got two ends. You can see bigger line, smaller line. Obviously, find the one that fits your line. I'm guessing it's the smaller one in our case. So the way this tool works is it's actually putting pressure on the gray clips here and spreading them out. And what that does is relieve pressure from the clip so that then you can just kind of push in and it should allow this to pull right off. Just like that. Do the same for this line and then we'll take this hat off and we'll be able to yank the fuel pump out. Now because the fuel pump was bad on this car, it did not have any fuel pressure in the system. But I will tell you, if you were just replacing your fuel pump because maybe you wanted a bigger one because you were doing a power adder or something along those lines, you want to depressurize the fuel system. This car hasn't ran in a long time, so I'm not worried about that. But if your car has ran recently, you'll want to do that. Basically just unplug like the fuel pump relay or something like that and crank the car just to kind of get all the fuel pressure out. Otherwise, when you disconnect that, it will shoot fuel everywhere. Not the end of the world, but it's a mess you can avoid. All right, so we've got the fuel pump and assembly out. Now is a good time to take a look in this tank since this thing sat for a long time. And it looks very clean. My goodness, that is a huge win. Super happy about that. Here's our hanger and full assembly. So we're just gonna get that pump off and we've got a new one to chuck in there. Now we really didn't talk about it too much last time, but what is the point of this car? Why did I buy it? Now I gotta be honest, when I first found this car on Marketplace, I was like, that is a great deal. I'm gonna buy it, fix it, flip it, make a few extra bucks. And then I started thinking about it and I'm like, let's be honest. A Miata kind of checks a lot of boxes for me. One, they're fun, they're cheap. Not just cheap to buy, but cheap to operate, because nowadays they're actually not that cheap to buy. This one was a great deal. But more importantly, they're cheap to operate, and that is really important when it comes to a track car, especially a drift car. I mean, great gas mileage, hardly any consumables. I can put 15-inch wheels and tires on this thing and run like $50 tires as opposed to the Z I'm running $100+ tires. So I'll be able to get seat time in a different car, which should help me develop other skills, especially one with even less power, and do it for way cheaper. That's a win in my book, but there are more boxes that I was looking to fill that this car just fit perfectly. Now my girlfriend Rachel, you guys have met her kind of here and there in videos. She has somewhere along the lines in our relationship and me exposing her to cars and drifting and stuff, she's fallen in love with Miatas. And I bought this thing without telling her about it, and I surprised her with it just a few days ago. She got really excited and I was like, look, why don't we build this car together? I'll use it to teach her to work on cars, and then eventually teach her how to drive it, teach her how to drift it, and it'll kind of be like a fun couples thing. So after the fuel pump issue is fixed and we actually have this thing running, and like I know for sure at least it's a good car and like the motor doesn't need serious work or anything, we're gonna bring her in here and I'm gonna have her kind of take over the basic stuff. I'm gonna show her how to do maintenance because this thing needs plugs and oil change, all the other fluids, everything like that. I think that's gonna be a really fun idea. I think it's gonna be a fun kind of series of videos of me like teaching her how to work on cars, how to actually fix things, especially when they break, and then eventually how to drift. So she'll make an appearance in this video at some point. Like I said, we're gonna start tackling the maintenance on this thing, but I just wanted to make sure it works first, so fingers crossed this fuel pump fixes it. Moment of truth. I'm gonna put the phone by the fuel pump and hopefully we hear this thing priming. Kind of weird, when I turned the key on it didn't cycle. When I tried to start it and then turn the key off and back on it did prime, and then it fired right up. Not really sure what that's about, but the fuel pump works and the car just started. What the heck? I'm gonna open the garage. We're actually gonna start this thing and I'm gonna let it run for a little bit and see what is really going on. It lives! I'm gonna let it run for a bit, see how it actually sounds. Let it get up to temp, see what happens. This is sick. Y'all wanna go for a drive? All right, let's fire this thing up. It's funny, I didn't put the fuel pump cover thing back on and you can hear that fuel pump loud. I don't know if you guys can see the tint strip on the windshield. It's literally right in my field of sight. I'm kind of tall to be in one of these cars, but whatever. I'm just kind of looking below it. I don't know how much you guys can see because it's kind of dark, but we are driving the Miata out of the neighborhood. I'm gonna do a little 1, 2, 3 to see how it feels. Not bad. Not bad at all. Check it out in the wild. All right, so we've got a running, driving Miata. But before we start to beat on this thing and really enjoy it, we have some maintenance to do. As I've mentioned before, this car sat for about 2 years. So I really want to go through and just make sure it is a good base to start on before we really get into it, which means doing a lot of basic maintenance. And I figured that's a perfect opportunity to show my girlfriend Rachel how to work on cars. This is going to be a project between her and I. She really wants to learn how to work on cars and ultimately learn how to drift. And I figured this is going to be a perfect start. So we're going to jump into the most basic stuff. We're probably going to start with an oil change, but it's going to be fun to teach her how to do that stuff and get her a little more comfortable turning a wrench. You ready to do an oil change? Step 1, let's grab a jack, get this thing up in the air so we can get under it and get that oil changed.
Probably close to the end there. Yep. So then just get ready to kind of pull it out and get your hand out of the way there. Yep. There you go.
Right in the street.
What do you got there?
It's spinning forever.
All right, oil's drained, filter's changed. How are we doing down here?
Great. I'm putting the plug back on.
Well, that super loose eccentric is probably the reason why this thing had a funny shake under braking. Tighten that up. There was a few other random loose bolts under the front end of this thing, so glad we got all that tight. Oil change is done. Get this thing back on the ground, and do you want to take it for a spin?
Yeah. It's funny. I can't see. It's a little toy car.
So we didn't do much, but we did an oil change. Do you feel like you could do that on your own now?
I very much can.
Okay, that's good. Do you feel like you could do like other minor little work things here and there now on your own?
Yes.
Or at least have an idea and feel a little more comfortable?
Yes. You made it seem like it was like, whatever. This is just like super easy.
Yeah, pretty straightforward stuff. Are you into it? Do you want to continue?
Yes, of course.
Okay, that's good. And what do you think of the first drive in the Miata?
Beside you full sending it.
Your first drive in the Miata.
My first drive in the Miata was great. It was, I need to get my stick driving down.
Yeah, that comes. I mean, if you're out there just learning how to drive manual for the first time, you know it's definitely not an overnight thing. So it just comes with driving more. And I mean, overall, you did pretty good. Is there anything you'd like to add for any other women out there that are thinking, maybe I want to learn how to work on a car, or maybe I want to learn how to work on manual?
It's so much easier than you think. Oh my God. Like, just get in there and you can Google everything. Everything has
That's
an
true.
answer out there. YouTube, all of that stuff. It's just so much easier than you think.
To close this video out, I just wanted to offer a few tips if you're in my shoes and you're teaching your significant other or your friend or maybe your kid how to work on cars. One thing that really helped me is changing my mindset from being heavily task-oriented to focusing more on teaching and sharing knowledge regardless of what we get done. I'm very much a task-oriented person. I almost always have a to-do list, and I'm trying to just check things off as fast as I can. And that doesn't really create a good environment for someone to learn in. So I really had to kind of shift my mind and say, you know what, it doesn't really matter if we get 5 things done or 1 thing done today. As long as I'm able to share my knowledge and she was able to understand and learn from it, then we accomplished our goals. Obviously, there'll always be a time and place for a to-do list, but if you're trying to teach somebody something, try to focus more on the teaching and less about the task. One last tip before we close this out, and that's to let them do as much as possible. Whoever you're teaching, really put the wrenches in their hands, give them the jack. Obviously, make sure everything's getting done in a safe manner. You don't want to have something get messed up on your car. You don't want them to get hurt. You don't want to get hurt. But really, people learn a lot more by doing than watching someone else do it or you just telling them how it is done. So like I gave her the jack and I said, wheel it under the car. This is where we're going to put it. This is where we're going to lift the car from. She was able to do all that. And now I know the next time she does that, she knows exactly what to do and how to do it. Again, it's really easy to get caught up in, well, I could do this way faster, so let me just do it. But if you're not focusing on the task, you're not focusing on the timeline, and you're just focusing on the teaching, it makes it a lot easier to kind of hand the reins over and say, you got this, I'll walk you through it, because I know you can do it. So drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Are you teaching someone how to work on cars, or maybe how to drive, or maybe how to drift? That's definitely coming in the future. So subscribe if you want to see that. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this style of content. Like I said, that's kind of the point of this Miata, is for Rachel to learn what it takes to work on a car and just kind of the basics. I don't think we're going to be doing a motor swap or any crazy stuff anytime soon on this thing, but I'm excited to have her be part of the journey, and I know she's excited to be part of it as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys are stoked on the Miata. The next couple videos are going to be back to the regular scheduled content because we have a lot of work to do on the Z, and I have a really big announcement coming for you guys. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.